Congressman Adam Schiff, he is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, who's just in Brussels just over a month ago. Congressman, you went through that airport, presumably, and you've been meeting with European intelligence officials in recent weeks about the situation with ISIS and the follow-up to Paris. Have you had any briefing about today's attacks? I know Congress is not in session.
Well, I had a preliminary briefing, but we're still gathering information from our European partners and obviously looking through our own holdings to see whether there's information that we still can share to shed light on this. But unfortunately, what we've seen is that even when Europe is in a state of vigilance, even after the arrest of Abdel Saleh, that these kind of attacks are still very possible. Europe must remain on alert because I think the risk in other capitals remains very grave. The challenge is that you have all these foreign fighters coming back, and Belgium has contributed more per capita than any other European country. It's very difficult to keep track of them, and they can also be concealed in these massive refugee flows. So the challenge is enormous. The resources are pretty limited. Belgium has been stepping up the amount of people they're devoting to intelligence and law enforcement, but they're playing catch-up, and we see the terrible results of that today.
Earlier today, Chris Dickey, the veteran correspondent, described Europe as the soft underbelly of the West and Belgium as the soft underbelly of Europe.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. Obviously, Europe much more accessible than the United States. We remain a much more difficult, much harder target. And Belgium has had a lot of problems, not only because of the magnitude of the foreign fighters, but because of the relative scarcity of resources that previously had been devoted to the problem. There are these logistical hubs in Belgium, in Brussels, and those hubs may be operating now in these other capitals. Those plots may also be advanced if indeed this plot was advanced because of Saleh Abdesalam's arrest. So this is an enormous challenge, but I think it goes beyond Belgium. There's a lot of blame being placed in Belgium, but nonetheless, many of the European partners do not talk to each other very well. They're still stovepiping their intelligence. Some of those barriers are coming down, but very slowly, while the threat moves very quickly.
And Congressman, there's at least one report that we have not confirmed, as far as I know, that airport security will be increased here in the United States. I should say in the United States, since I'm in Havana. It's been noticeably tighter in recent days. I'm not traveling myself today, so I don't know about whether there is a response to this. Do you think more needs to be done here, at least temporarily, until we can sort out who the perpetrators are?
Well, I'm sure there are additional steps that are being taken, and I should point out that I don't think we're aware of any connection between the plot in Belgium with an active plot in the United States, but nonetheless, there's the risk of copycats, people who are inspired by ISIS already, who will take these attacks as motivation to carry out attacks in the United States now. So I'm sure there are steps going on, some that will be seen, many that won't be seen, to heighten our defenses. I do think overall, though, there's a lot more work we still need to do at our airports to harden them. Here the attack was before security. I still remain very concerned about just how adequate our security is and how safe our aircraft are. So I do think there's a lot more for us to be concerned about. One final point I'd make, Andrea, is the primary threat we still face here is from the homegrown radicals, people like Farouk, the shooter in San Bernardino, born in the United States, radicalized online. It's still very hard for foreign fighters to get back in the United States or to the United States. That's going to be a bigger problem over time, but right now our primary threat, I think, comes from Americans who are radicalized at home through the sophisticated social media that ISIS uses.
And finally, Congressman, it's really awful to talk about politics in this context, but there is a political impact. We saw what happened after Paris and the way Donald Trump and others capitalized on fears of migrants, fears of Muslims. That's when the whole conversation of the 2016 campaign seemed to change. Today, he was on the Today Show with Savannah and Matt, and he suggested that Abdel Salam being interrogated now, if he were commander-in-chief, that Donald Trump would authorize waterboarding and other forms of torture, that, anything goes. basically, he said, I'm in that camp. What's your reaction to that and how it may change the political debate, this attack in Brussels?
Well, I'm appalled by it because essentially what he has said in the past and maybe reaffirming today is his willingness to go outside the law, to violate the laws of war and torture people. That is not what this country is about, and I think we have seen amply demonstrated it's not only immoral, but it also gets you a lot of bad information. So it's also not an effective way to do intelligence work. And I think beyond that, a lot of the statements that he in particular has made that would cast aspersions against all Muslims in this country and around the world is enormously counterproductive. It just plays into ISIS narrative that the West is hostile to Islam. So I think these statements are both dangerous as well as enormously counterproductive.
Adam Schiff, thank you very much, Congressman. Thank you.